Hello to our friends and viewers around the world. My name is Yinka Dansalami, and welcome to another episode of Know Your Rights on NABNTV, a program that provides you with general information about some of your constitutional rights in the United States. We are committed to bring the best of the best legal experts in various fields of legal disciplines to address some of the legal issues you may have. We're in the tax season now, and what a better time to address tax issues that may be of great interest to you. We have in our studio one of the co-founders and former president of the Nigerian Lawyers Association in the United States, Mr. Shamsi Oloko. Welcome to Know Your Rights on NABNTV, Mr. Oloko.
Thank you.
And Mr. Oloko, I know that you have written a lot about tax issues, especially on IRS regulations. Can you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Dansalami, for having me on your show. And thanks to the viewers around the world. My name is Shamsi Oloko, and I'm an attorney right here in New York area, representing clients around the United States and indeed around the world, including Nigeria. I have practiced over 20 years. I have worked with the IRS. I have had my own practice. I have represented clients before the IRS and state authorities for the last couple of decades, conversant with the tax laws in the United States, federal level and the state levels, and represented clients anywhere from audit to tax planning and tax controversies before the several authorities. And yes, indeed, I have written actually hundreds of tax blogs for people that's available on our website. We have an office right here in New York, in Midtown, and I'm happy to be on your show, and hopefully we can answer some questions and help to educate the public.
Thank you very much. We have a lot of questions from our viewers, especially during this tax season. Some of them want to know whether they should even file their income tax.
Well, as a matter of good practice, you should be on the better side of the Internal Revenue Service. The IRS, as I like to explain to people, is the only governmental agency in the United States that if you owe them money, they don't have to go to court to get their money from you.
Is that correct? What does that mean?
Well, if you owe me money, I have to go before a judge.
Exactly. That's why I say, what does that mean?
Yeah. If IRS thinks you owe them money, they'll give you an opportunity to come before the IRS to prove whether or not you owe them, but then they can go directly to your bank account and empty the bank account.
So don't I have to give my bank, some sort of permission before they can do that?
No.
They can just go through to my bank.
Once your bank or any depository agency gets a notice from the IRS, they will turn over the entirety of your bank account to the IRS.
Is there some sort of provision that gives them that kind of authority in the Constitution?
Yeah, the U.S. tax code.
Is that correct?
That's right.
Go ahead, sir.
So, but the law tempers that power with avenues to give you an opportunity to present yourself to the IRS and dispute, why do you owe them that money, do you not owe them that money, and that's where I come into play. So if you get a letter from the IRS that you owe them $100,000, you owe them $100 million, yes, I've had clients that owe in the millions of dollars, I get to represent you and explain why you do not owe that money. In fact, there's several, and it's a vast area of law. If you owe the IRS money, under law in the United States, if you do not have the means to pay that money back to the IRS, the law actually provides a remedy for you whereby once you prove that you do not have the income and you do not have the assets to pay, you can actually get out of paying that money to the IRS altogether and have that debt reduced to zero.
And that is what you do?
That's what I do, yes.
So, but listen, I've heard stories that someone will say, I am not under the jurisdiction of the United States of America, therefore I don't have to file income tax.
Let me take a question in two ways. One, there's a group of, we call them tax protesters.
Okay.
They insist that the tax law
it's unconstitutional.
It's unconstitutional, and they do not have to pay taxes to the United States. Well, a majority of them are in prison as we speak. Because as soon as you go before a judge and you start to say that to the judge, he will truncate your presentation and send you off on your merry way to prison. So there's no law that says you cannot pay
I
taxes.
see.
IRS tax administration laws in the United States is voluntary, technically,
Okay.
until you don't comply. If you don't comply, you find out that the IRS is the most powerful agency in the United States.
But I don't get it. You know, when you say it's voluntary, but then if I don't comply, then I will be in trouble. So how does that, how do you square that?
So technically, you are required to pay your taxes. That is by law. You're supposed to pay your taxes.
Okay.
So as you go through a calendar year, you make deposits on how much money you owe the IRS as you go on. Let's say you are the average employee, you have salary coming in every month. You pay the IRS as you go on. At the end of the year, and precisely by April 15th, you have to now file a return which reconciles your total income and how much tax due. If you've paid more than you were supposed to pay, you get a refund. If you paid less than you were supposed to pay, you owe the IRS.
So with this new tax regulation, tax law enacted now, a lot of people are complaining that they are not getting money anymore. So what does that mean?
Well, it depends on which part of the country you are and what you do for a living. If you're in this is where politics has bled into tax administration. If you are in the so-called red states, you actually did better.
Is that so?
Yes, that's right.
How?
You did better. Okay, it gets a bit technical. So prior to the enactment of that tax law, your entire tax that you pay to your state and local authorities is deductible under the Federal Tax Administration.
Okay.
However, that new law put a cap of $10,000 on how much of that tax you pay to your authorities you can deduct. Well, you can imagine, so for instance, in New Jersey, New York, especially in New Jersey, some communities have property tax that exceeds $20,000, $30,000. So if you are limited to claim only $10,000, you lost money.
I've heard people telling me about W-2 forms and 1099 people, whether they should be filing income taxes and what is the difference between these two people.
That's an excellent question. Most workers in the United States bifurcated into two classes, either a W-2 or a 1099. If you're a W-2 person, that means you are employed as an employee in a business, and they pay you, quarterly. Every 2 weeks, every month, or what have you. So their business will take deductions, tax deductions from you, and send that to the government periodically. If you're 1099, they'll just pay you entire money, and you have the obligation to then pay the IRS taxes due on that money. Now, there's one aspect of tax law that's lost generally to most people. It's a bit technical, but let me try to simplify it. So if you're a W-2 employee, you also contribute to your Social Security. Your employer has an obligation to also match your contribution. So it's costing the employer more for you to be a W-2 person. So, but both the Social Security contribution and your contribution go towards your benefit with the Social Security Administration. If you're a 1099 employee, however, the employer has no obligation to contribute any money towards your Social Security.
Is that what we call those contractors?
Yes. So that's a whole totally different topic altogether, as to your classification. So for instance, if you're an Uber driver, it's an ongoing controversy. Are they employees or they independent contractors? And it has ramifications for employers, for Uber, for instance, because Uber wants them to be independent contractors. That way, Uber gets to lower its expenses. But for those workers, for those drivers, it's better to be employees because Uber then gets to pay into their Social Security. So Uber, of course, would like them to be general contractors. However, the drivers want to be workers. Right now, the law has them as
General contractors.
general contractors, yes.
And so general contractors, they still have to file, their own income tax.
Yes. Just like everybody else, at the end of the year, if you are a 1099 person, so at the end of the year, the employer will give you a 1099 form, which will let you know how much money you've made that year. Then it's now between you and the IRS. You go, when you file your tax return, the IRS will charge you how much tax you owe on that income, as well as the Social Security contribution that's due from you, IRS. Because what happens is, at the end of the year, when you get the tax bill from the IRS, you will owe so much money, you almost cannot catch up. So you have to somehow mirror what a W-2 person would do. Every month or thereabouts, you send money to the IRS.
How do you do that?
Oh, you just send, anytime you send money to the IRS, they
will accept it.
Oh, yes, they do, with thanks.
But isn't there some sort of format, you have to do? You can't just send money to the government, don't you have to fill a form or something like that?
No, you don't have to fill a form. It's a tax deposit, it's called.
I see.
Yeah, and I think the thrust of your question is how would they know how much to pay?
Right. Not only how would they know how much to pay, but then how would they know who is sending this money and what is it for?
Oh, once you send the money to the IRS, you accompany the money with your Social Security number, so they know it's your money and they will give you credit for it.
So IRS will know that, yes, you have
you paid money. So at the end of the year, when you now file the tax return, they will say, oh, Mr. Dansalami has been paying $10,000 every month. At the end of the year, it turns out that you owe them $98,000, but you've paid $120,000, they'll give you a refund of $22,000.
We would like to take this opportunity to appeal to you to advertise your product and be one of our sponsors so that we can continue to disseminate important information about the rights that you have under United States Constitution and other federal and state law. Welcome back to Know Your Right on NABNTV. So is there any advice you will have for our client, especially in light of the fact that, we are in tax season now? Everybody wants to be on the good side of IRS, so to speak.
Yes. Well, the first golden rule in dealing with the IRS and being a good citizen or green card holder in the United States is you have to file your tax return. If you don't file your tax return, you are an enemy of the state, constructively. You have to file your tax return. Even if you owe money, money is owed to you, whatever your situation is, you do have to file your tax return. In fact, if you want to adjust your immigration status, the first thing they will ask you is go and file your tax returns. If you want a contract with the United States, they will tell you to go and file your tax return. If you want to do any business with the government, you have to file your tax return. Now, the question people ask me is, but I owe money. If I file a tax return, they're going to ask me for the money. Well, not filing the tax return doesn't make your debt disappear. You still owe the money. But if you don't file the tax return, you actually lose in more ways than one. One, you're not in compliance with the law. Two, there's something called the statute of limitation. That means that once you file your tax return, there's a window where the IRS can come in and audit your tax return. Now, if within that window, IRS comes to you and says, hey, listen, the deductions you took were not good, or blah, 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 then they can issue a penalty and finding interest and what have you against you. Once you're outside of that window, IRS is powerless against you. They cannot
so what if I don't?
But however, if you do not file your tax return,
right,
that window does not begin.
I see. So there's no statute of limitation.
There's no statute of limitation. They can come to you anytime they want to because you never started the clock. So it's a big issue. It's a very big difference.
You have to start the clock running first.
Let's start the clock running.
And the way to start the clock running is to file it. I see.
Yeah. Which, by the way, technically, if you don't file your tax return, IRS will file one for you. Obligations for filing and the consequences for not filing. If you fail to file, the statute of limitation does not begin to run. And IRS can come to you theoretically 20 years from now and audit your records. And there's no way you can stop them. However, if you file, they have a window that if that window expires, even if the IRS knows that you should have paid more taxes, there's nothing they can do about it because that window has expired. That is the law. So it is to your advantage eternally that you should file a tax return. And just one last thing on that topic, because this is one of the most things that I get, from people when they ask me, well, but if I file and I don't have money to pay, then what happens? There's a regimen of penalties that the IRS can hit you with. There's a penalty for not filing, there's a penalty for not paying, and penalty for bad accounting, bad calculation, or what have you. The highest of the penalties is for not filing. So that will always follow you, and you have, and the IRS debt can add up very quickly. So the one final thing I would say on that topic is file the tax return. If you're worried about it, you can visit our offices or any tax lawyer that you know, and they will be able to help you.
That's fantastic. So I know you are. Your office is in Park Avenue. So can the regular folks, like our viewers, some of our viewers, can they come to your office for some sort of assistance?
By all means, we welcome all takers. Anyone, if you're a U.S. taxpayer, you're welcome in our offices. We have a policy in my office that money would not be the reason why you don't get good legal representation.
That's fantastic.
So if you have, we've represented anywhere from individuals to sovereign nations within my offices, yes. So if you have tax problem of any type, feel free to call our offices, Thurgood Law Firm. We will be more than glad to assist you.
I have invested a lot of money in the United States, especially in the stock market. Am I still obligated to file income tax?
Yes, if you make money, let me answer that question in two ways. Because this question comes, to my desk a lot. I have individuals who reside outside of the United States, but they are U.S. citizens or green card holders, and they will tell me, "Hey, do I have to pay taxes on money that I make outside of the United States?" The response to that question is actually very clear cut. If you're a U.S. citizen or green card holder, you owe taxes on your worldwide income, period. If you make money from anywhere, doing anything, you owe money to the government. Now, if you are a non-U.S. person for tax purposes, which means you're not a green card holder,
right,
or you're not a U.S. citizen, and you reside in Ghana, for instance,
and I invested a lot of money.
You made money here.
Right.
You owe taxes for money that you make in the United States, regardless. Then the question comes to mind, if you don't have a Social Security number, how do you file a tax return? So there's a regimen, a provision, where the IRS issues what's called the ITIN. It is a substitute for a Social Security number. You apply for it, you tell them that the reason why you need that is because you want to file a tax return and you don't have a Social Security number. And you can use that to file a tax return.
So what if I don't file this tax return? I live in let's say in China, so IRS can come after me in China.
Correction, Mr. Dansalami, IRS can come after you anywhere you reside.
Is that so?
Yes, because in the last 5 years or thereabouts, IRS has gone into a cooperation agreement with pretty much every country in the world, where if you, first, it's twofold. One, if you have accounts in those countries are obligated to tell the IRS that you have an account there. That's one. And two, they can actively participate in enforcing the IRS laws against you, even if you have your money outside the shores of the United States. So the bottom line to that is IRS can get you unless you're anywhere, unless you're in the money.
So I just have to pay IRS?
Yes, you pay your tax. And again, what I always say is you're only required to pay taxes on money that you made. So you should be able to pay it.
So now let me quickly ask this question, while we are still on tax issue. I form a non-for-profit organization, okay? So am I still obligated to pay some sort of taxes?
No. The short answer is no. However, there's one issue that keeps recurring, is the filing of the tax return. IRS has made it easy. The tax return that you file as a non-for-profit is called the Form 990. What the IRS has done, because there's a good number of not-for-profit don't do a lot of business.
Right.
So it's 50,000 and below. So they are allowed to file what's called a 990 easy. So you can file a 990, regular form 990, or the 990 easy. However, if you don't file those tax returns for 3 consecutive years, IRS will remove your tax exemption altogether. So income that you make, once they remove your tax exemption, income that you make is now subject to taxes.
So income, let's say that, I have a company, I have
Not for profit.
enough for profit, I have a building and I'm renting part of the building out, I have a tenant, I'm collecting money from that tenant. So, and that would be an income for me.
Okay, so the income determination for a non-profit goes to the purpose of which you're set up. In other words, the profit-making aspect of your business has to be incidental to your business. It cannot be the reason why you were set up.
I see.
If you wanted to just make money, then you set up a business entity to
Right.
handle that income. But if you're raising money to help school children, to give scholarships, to help the homeless, if you also make money that goes towards that purpose, that's also exempt.
That's very good. Thank you very much, Mr. Loko. Let me now ask you some few questions about money laundering. I know you've been doing this, also as part of your practice. You represent, you've represented a lot of folks, in this area. When people talk about money laundering, what do they mean by that? And what does the law actually? What is the law talking about when you talk about money laundering?
Well, thank you, Mr. Dansalami. The question beggars 2 different levels of responses. There's the technical response, then there's the layperson's response. The layperson is actually the better response. Money laundering. It's simply a method or device whereby you are cleaning your money. In other words, money obtained through some nefarious set of activities, and you're trying to now bring it into the mainstream. For instance, you made money from drug dealings. You stole money from the government somewhere, but you want to be able to use that money in a much more conventional sense. So you want to transfer the money from, Ghana to the United States. You want to send the money from Jamaica to Ohio so you can engage in legitimate business. So once you engage in that, the federal government wants to know exactly what you're doing, and they're ready to prosecute, and they will prosecute every person or entity, the entire pipeline of that money laundering, including especially banks.
So, assuming I got some of my fraudulent documents from my home country and using the same instrument to conduct business in the United States without necessarily defrauding American citizen or American government, can I still be indicted and prosecuted for using for money laundering?
Yeah, the short answer to that is yes, emphatic yes, actually. If you have fraudulent documents, you should not enter into the American banking system. Because for starters, anytime you go before a bank in the United States and you present a document that's false, that is a felony under federal laws. You will be prosecuted and you will go to prison. That's actually a separate question altogether. It may or may not have something to do with money laundering. So, as you know, whether you're applying for a mortgage, which happens a lot more, and it's not a money laundering, if you present a defective document or fraudulent document to the bank in the United States, that is a felony in of itself, prosecutable under federal laws.
I know this is a very large, it is very complicated subject. People talk about it, and a lot of people are really not aware, or they are aware, when they are engaging in this type of nefarious activities or trying to clean their money, or they don't know what money, if I transfer certain amount of money, am I subject to prosecution and stuff like that. So we're going to be talking more about this issue because it's a very important topic. Thank you very much, Mr. Loko. You've heard it from the expert. You've heard it from Mr. Loko, who has been in this business for a very long time. We are going to be inviting you back, sir, so that you can shed more light into this very important topic for our audience, where you can hear from him. So please stay tuned at our next episode, We are going to go into this topic, money laundering, some of the things that may be involved, so that you can be well aware and be careful not to fall victim or not to be do something that you may be prosecuted for without being aware of it. Again, Mr. Oloko, thank you very much. Mr. Oloko will be back again. We hope that you found this program very informative. We will be on the air every other week. This will give you an opportunity to send us any questions you may have, and we plan to address those questions during the upcoming show. We will continue with the topic of money laundering and fraudulent paper, and we will discuss some of the intricacies about this subject. We would also like to take this opportunity to appeal to you to subscribe and advertise your product, be one of our sponsors, so that we can continue to disseminate important information about your rights that you have under the United States Constitution. Information is power. We'd like to equip you with sufficient information so that you can dispel any misinformation and myths that may be going on in our community. Finally, please know that this program has not created any attorney-client relationship. If you have a legal matter or pending case, it is best to review all of the facts and circumstances of your particular situation with an attorney in order to determine the best course of action. You may contact any guest or any other attorney for further consultation if you wish. Neither NABNTV nor its host is liable for any consultation you may have with any guest of this show. We are merely providing general information. Thank you very much. Please stay tuned for our next episode next week. Thank you.